Hey there, welcome back to Badass Business Planning. We are diving in here in this module to your solution. And here in lesson 2, we're going to talk about your product mix. This is where we're going to start to define how are people going to pay you money? How are you going to make money? And so this is thinking through what are your offers going to be. And to be clear, when I say product mix here, we are really talking about your paid offers. We're going to talk about some other things about freebies, etc., in the acquisition strategy. But here, when we're thinking about product mix, what I want you to think of is long-term, what do you imagine your product suite will look like? So instead of thinking, hey, I'm going to create a course or I'm going to have a coaching program, you should be thinking about, I think long term, maybe I'm going to have an ebook, and I'm going to have a course, and I'm going to have a membership, and I'm going to have a coaching program, and I'm going to have one-on-one work. And I want you to think through that entire suite of products to think through what would you offer and what do you think your audience needs. And so this is part of where you should be thinking about each segment. Now, sometimes what you'll find is you can combine and one product will serve multiple segments, and that's okay. But I want you to think through each one of those segments that you've identified. What product or products will you create to solve their problem? And thinking that through will help you to kind of create this catalog, if you will, a backlog of products that you expect over time you're going to create. And as you're doing this, I want you to think through, what do they really need? And so what is the problem they have? What is their primary need? And what is the current solutions? And create your product ideas from that. And again, the quick example of this is if they don't just need information, you can't expect to just offer a course that is just teaching information. There's got to be something more. And so you have to match up the product suite to what they need. And so that's the work here. And I do want to stress here that this is a level where you will definitely not feel like you need to be creating creating all of these things in the short term. Quite honestly, many of the things you put down here, you might not even plan to create for another year, 2, 3 years down the line. Just so you know, in my mind, the way my brain is working, I am generally thinking about what are the offers that we're going to be creating in my business a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years from now. And I'm pretty far down along the line, but that's where my brain is. And oftentimes that'll change, but you're going to be thinking long term so that you have this kind of overall mix of what you need to create. So that's what you're going to be creating. And like to give you an example of the product mix here and how you might think about this. So if BOMU were a paid program instead of a free program, so if you had to pay for each course or something like that, you could use an example of what we do. And what I mean by that is we have in our business, we have a backlog of courses for BOMU. We have an entire list and we know what's coming next and what we anticipate. And that's based on, hey, what do our people need? What are the things people are asking us for? What are the problems they have? It's based on the journey. We're doing it in a very kind of systematic way. And we call it a backlog. It is the list of products to be created. We do the exact same thing for our legal templates. We have a backlog so that we know, okay, the next time that I have time to create a new template and that stuff, this is the list that I'm going to pick from. So you should be doing something similar, not because you're going to create it all now, but so that you catalog what those ideas are. And the real key here, as you're thinking about your product mix, is to make sure that you're matching the right product to the right customer segment to the right phase in the journey. And you just need to make sure that you're doing it the right way. And again, like I said, don't overthink it here. The goal here is for each customer segment that you want to make into a paying segment, you need to identify at least one product. And I would challenge you to come up with different types of products. Don't just come up with a bunch of courses or a bunch of memberships or a bunch of coaching offers. Try to think, are there different types of products that I should offer to different folks in my audience? Because most of us will not create one kind of product. We'll create multiple kinds of products, and that's what we'll need to do to meet the different needs of different people in our audience. So fill out that product mix. This is, again, your initial thoughts on what you expect your products to be over time. You'll fill that in, and that will give you a good sense of kind of where you're headed towards. And then as you do that, then you'll know, hey, if my first scaled product that I think I'm going to create is a course with implementation help about how to tackle emotional eating, for example. If that were what you had said, hey, I think that's the first thing up, then you're going to think, kind of working back as we execute getting to that, how do you build the stuff in your basic machines? How are you going to build your list? How are you going to build your audience headed towards that goal? So that's why we're doing this here, even though you're not going to implement it yet. You want to know where you're headed so you'll know what to build in the next phases. So go ahead, think this through, and come up with what you expect to be your product suite or your mix of products that you'll offer to different people in your audience. So do that now. And then in the next lesson, we're going to talk about the acquisition strategy. This is thinking about how are you going to get people's attention and get them into your world and ultimately sell to them. So I'll see you there.